Warren Buffett is searching for an heir to the throne of his multi-billion-dollar empire, but he is, as you can imagine, having a tough time finding the next him. Our next guest says it might be just as hard finding someone who actually wants the job. In this month's issue of Vanity Fair, Bethany McLean went out to Omaha to talk to Buffett about his succession plan and much more. She's also a Bloomberg contributing editor, joining us live from Los Angeles this morning. Bethany, always great to talk to you here. Buffett says this is the only thing they talk about at board meetings. Who's going to be the next head?
Exactly. Well, it's a really important issue for Berkshire Hathaway, as you can imagine, because, as we all know, there's only one Warren Buffett.
Well, there are certainly a lot of people who would like to be, the world's second richest man, country's second richest man, but he really has such a wide portfolio of duties here. Who are the main contenders?
Right. Well, that's one of the things that really struck me in talking to him was we all regard him as an investing genius, but he's really so much more than that. I mean, he's built Berkshire Hathaway into one of the biggest companies in the United States. He's also a manager, and so replacing him is a really challenging idea. And he's planning to split the roles, so there'll be a separate CEO and chief investment officer. And what was fascinating to me is that he regards the CEO role as actually being more important to the future of Berkshire Hathaway than the investing role. And that's a really different way than we all think about Berkshire Hathaway.
Well, certainly, and in the names that we've seen reported, Todd Combs, David Sokol, who's very involved with NetJets, Ajay Jain. In your piece, you have this quote from Buffett, who's so quotable. He says he regards private equity as love of money over love of business. So is it surprising in some way to see hedge fund managers like Combs included in the lineup?
Well, I think that Combs would be on the investing side. He'd be part of the investing team rather than the CEO. Mm-hmm. So he wouldn't be in charge of buying new businesses, assuming Berkshire Hathaway was still adding to its portfolio. He'd be in charge of investing the excess cash. So it's kind of a split. But I also think one of the things that was appealing to about Combs to Buffett is that he's not your prototypical hedge fund manager. He's a private guy who's done his own thing out of the spotlight. So he's a little bit of a different character.
And you point out, I mean, Berkshire Hathaway is a massive corporation, but really in some ways it's more of an investment vehicle, right? That than simply a conglomerate. Does Berkshire Hathaway still become the, good housekeeping seal of approval place where you go to sell your business after Buffett?
I think that's a really big challenge for Berkshire Hathaway's future. Right now, Buffett is the buyer of first choice, and one of my sources I talked to likened it to Steven Spielberg. Every great script crosses his desk first, and that's a huge advantage. And Buffett built that advantage for himself. So I'm not taking anything away from him by saying that's an advantage. But the real question is, does that continue in the future? Does whoever runs Berkshire Hathaway have that same magic, such that companies want to sell to Berkshire first?
All right. Well, Bethany, thanks for coming on. It was a really interesting read. You can see it now in Vanity Fair. Bethany McLean's piece here on